So here we got the completed to-do app. We can complete to-do items, we can delete to-do items, we can create to-do item, and we can rename to-do items. Hey everybody, in this video we will cover a complete walkthrough of how to create an Angular app using Tailwind CSS and Nx. Furthermore, we will cover some new Angular features such as standalone components. After watching this video, be confident with using Tailwind CSS to make the styling of your Angular application in a more efficient way, and also how to use it to create a more consistent, streamlined look of your application. If you're new to this channel, hey, I'm Christian Ludemann, and on this channel I teach you how to become an Angular master. So if that is something you're interested in, like this video and subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And if you want to become an in-demand Angular developer in the fastest way possible, head over to christianludemann.com/accelerator and get started with the free workshop. Let's jump to the video. The first tool is Nx, which is a build tool for monorepo, and is in particular supporting Angular, React, a bunch of other front-end and also server-side technologies that can work together in a monorepo. And that gives us some nice utilities for working with Tailwind, which is a CSS framework that is basically allowing you to generate styling using CSS classes. Almost like something you could recognize from Bootstrap. It gives you some similar helpers available. This is just the complete package. So you basically don't need to write any CSS if you have Tailwind CSS. And it also supports breakpoints. It supports design tokens for like spacing and colors. So it's really a big way to make your development process more efficient if you get familiar with these tools. So first, let's create a new Angular app with Nx. So basically, to get started, we just go into Nx website. We will go into Nx. We can see there is some Nx Angular tutorial. So basically, we're gonna use this command to get started. I will just create a new Nx workspace. And we're just gonna have the latest available here. And then get a pre-configured setup. Nx configures your favorite frameworks and let you focus on shipping features. So we will have that. And then we choose Angular. And basically we're just gonna call this Tailwind CSS demo. An application name, basically just some app, we can call it web. And then we have we use this CSS, and we want to make this Nx Cloud, and say yes to that. So now we'll generate an Angular app for us. And now finally the app is set up. So we're gonna go to our Tailwind CSS demo and basically open that in VS Code, and we will start running the app initially just so we see how that looks. We run a brand new Nx application, version caching. So this is for Angular 14. And now let's see this. So now we want to introduce Tailwind CSS. Click here, get started, and there's a bunch of guides for different frameworks. So we're gonna, of course, pick Angular, and we're gonna run the steps here. So that's gonna be the first step, is basically running this command. Next one is npx tailwind css init. Now that basically created this configuration file, and then we can configure what files should be run. And in our case, we basically want to target, because this is an Nx project, so we want to basically have it run for apps and libs. And then in our global styles, we're going to add these directives for each of Tailwind's layers. We can click into that layer, and that later the different layers that are in Tailwind. So styles, and then we add these layers here. And then basically we can just run it and start our ng or nx server this with nx. And basically we should have also something to show with Tailwind CSS. So we replace the app component with this. It's basically gonna have some underline and font bold hello world. So we see now Tailwind is working. And from here we're gonna build an to-do application using Tailwind. So yeah, we're gonna remove this for now. And we can also looking into configuring our styling a bit. So we can extend the styles in Tailwind. We can just look at some of the documentation. Let me just fix this error here. So now we're going to look at the editor setup for Tailwind CSS. So there's a VS Code plugin for Tailwind CSS we can install. It's basically going to help us with some auto-complete intelligence. So it's worth having. So let's get that. So we go to the extensions and we search for Tailwind CSS. Then we find this one from Tailwind Labs and we install this one. All right, so now we should get some intelligence whenever we write something. We can see all the suggested CSS classes Tailwind provides. There's a bunch of other things you can do with the configuration. We don't really need to look too much into that now because Angular CLI takes care of a lot of this stuff. So some of the core concepts of Tailwind and some of the common objections against Tailwind is that it is breaking the single responsibility principles of styling you normally see, where you have styling in your basically in your CSS, and then you have your semantic classes in your HTML, and that gives like this loose coupling, and that basically you need to actually write more CSS because you're targeting a specific use case basically in your HTML. And Tailwind CSS is gonna do that the other way around. Basically, you're gonna repeat some HTML classes, but you're gonna be able to reuse styling with Tailwind CSS, which in the long haul is gonna make you way more efficient with your development, as it's way faster to write CSS classes than, especially once you get familiar with the design tokens and all the other classes, then it would be to write all this as CSS. A lot of duplicate CSS. So there's some, for example, maintainability concerns. The biggest maintainability concern with using utility first approach is managing commonly repeated utility combinations. And this can be solved by extracting components and partials. So you can still extract things to component, like this example is Vue, but in Angular you will extract stuff to a component. So yeah, that's basically how you overcome these concerns. And then inline styles, it doesn't have the same constraints on these design tokens and responsive design with the breakpoints and all this. And then yeah, so that's basically the benefit over using a traditional approach where custom design require custom CSS. Yeah, you can prefix for hover, you can prefix like that, for example. You can do some prefix with the theme. like dark. Responsive design, that's a big one. So you have these out of the box with Tailwind CSS, you have these breakpoints, and you can prefix your styles, and then they will target this minimum width screen size. So for example, if you do MD when width and then 32, which is a design token for some spacing, then that would mean that the minimum width for this style to be applied is 768 pixels, and it'll apply for everything that's larger than that. So you can do, for example, determine when a grid should start stacking on mobile. We saw the dark mode thing, how you can have a dark mode, then have some class for that. Then you can have like dark mode is enabled, then it's gonna apply these. Be using styles. So basically, you can manage duplication of and creating reusable abstractions. As Tailwind encourages utility first workflow where designs and optimizations using the only low-level utility classes as a powerful way to avoid premature abstraction and the pain points that come with it. You can extract some classes with apply, which basically is a way to apply, to take the Tailwind styling and use it inside of a CSS context. So you don't even need to use it in the HTML all the time. You can actually use that styling in the CSS, and you can also just, if you want to reference a specific color token from Tailwind, you can also do that. We use the apply here, and then it used to and then there's different layers. They call it layers in Tailwind. There's base, there's components, and there's utilities. We gotta come to that, what that means. So we have the different layers here. So we use the layer director to tell Tailwind that this bucket, a set of custom styles belong to it. So let's see. We have layer components, for example. Then you can, basically means it belongs to the component layer. So we got base, which this injects Tailwind's base styles and any base styles registered by plugins. And the components layer injects Tailwind's component classes and any component classes registered by plugins. And this utilities injects Tailwind's utility class and any utility classes registered by plugins. And basically components. So here we have the functions and directives, which basically are for ways we can apply custom styling to our Tailwind styling and use that in combination. So Tailwind got these 3 layers, one layer called base, one layer called components, one layer called utilities. And when we set up Tailwind, we were in our global style sheet applying these 3 layers like that. And there's also ways how we can add even more stuff to these layers. Like we see in the examples here, we can add even more to the base layer, even more to the component layer like that, and even more to utilities layer. So there's ways we can add these in these 3 different buckets. And then we see you can apply stuff here. So you can apply the different styles from Tailwind in your CSS, and then, like colors or whatever CSS, whatever Tailwind class you would normally write in your HTML, you can write them here, and then all the styling will be applied within the given selector in CSS. So that is apply. And so that's usually what you would do. Like most of the time, like 95% of the time, we just fine just with Tailwind CSS and just writing the styling in pure HTML. But sometimes you would maybe, you're doing some overrides and stuff, which requires a bit more complicated CSS. And then you would combine, for example, getting the colors from Tailwind CSS, but then writing some other CSS that wouldn't be easily accessible from Tailwind. If you take a look at the configuration of the tailwind.config file, we can see how we, for example, inside of the theme property, can add colors, which basically would be our color scheme for the application. And we can extend the basic, the styles that comes with Tailwind, like the spacing, by adding some other options. Usually it works with something similar to t-shirt sizes. And we can, for example, add other options here. And we can add fonts, and we can extend, and then we can also just override and create brand new, override the existing styling. So that's basically what we do for configuration. To make sure we're going to have some nice colors for our app, we're going to use a website called coolers.co to generate a nice color scheme we can use in our app. So something like this would not be terrible, but we can just clicking through these and see something that could be appropriate for a to-do application. Let's see, find something that could work. It's kind of this might be a bit much. Let's go with this one. So now let's go ahead and integrate this color scheme into our Tailwind project. So if we look at the documentation under customizing colors, we can see that Tailwind actually has a color scheme out of the box that we could use. It gives us a bunch of different configuration options. And basically, we want to customize it so we can use our own color scheme here. And we might still want to have these available, or we could just altogether override the whole color scheme. So basically, we would do that by going to the Tailwind config. If we did extend, we would be able to keep the existing color scheme, or we can just go colors here. And then we could override the whole configuration for colors. So let's say we want to do that. We have the orange color here. And by the way, so how should you name your design tokens? In particular, how should you name your colors? So actually Tailwind, they recommend that you go for more specific names rather than the more abstract names like primary, secondary, danger, and such. So instead, they actually recommend that you go for like the literal color names like red, green, and such, and then you use a numeric scale for the different variants like light or dark. I think it's also okay sometimes, depending on the complexity of the color scheme, to just use like gray, light, gray, dark, and then maybe later you're gonna have a need for like the numeric color scale, or do a combination of both. I think that can also make sense. So you have like your numeric color scale plus the literal name like this, and then you create some aliases for this. So you would have some more maybe use case specific, like component specific names for the same different colors. And then you might also have the more abstract ones like the primary and such. So I think ideally it actually makes sense, depending on the complexity of the color schema, to have more of these different variations. But we're just gonna keep it simple here. We're just gonna call it orange, and red, the red one here. And then we got the, I don't know, lavender, I guess. But then we have the something less glaucus. Then we have royal blue light. Actually, I think we will just, yeah, maybe we should Princeton orange. Yeah, we could, and then we could even, yeah, this is what we're gonna use here, so that's fine. Royal blue, I'm just gonna write it up like this. All right, now we have the colors ready to be used, and we can see it working. If we go here and we do like BG orange, or even just get the intelligence here, we can see how it applies here. So now we hooked into the colors. And basically now we are gonna create the to-do list component. And we're gonna do that using the Nx CLI, which is an easy way to have a nice UI for these different schematics. So basically here we are writing to-do list, and then we're gonna look at the other options. We're not gonna specify anything for module. We're gonna specify inline styling, which is something I kinda start to like now, which gives like a look that's similar to React and Vue, where it's more compact and you don't have all these different files. You don't have the HTML file and such. It's more like in just one thing, and then the inline HTML as well. So everything is just in one file, which I think is easier. And then also standalone, so we're gonna create standalone components. We don't need the module component. It's all gonna be in this one file. So we're gonna have the component file containing everything, including the module and styling and HTML. And then we can have a test file and display block, because in this case we want it to be like a block style element. And now it's generated. Needs to-do list. So here we're just gonna fill out, whatever thing might make sense here. We're gonna remove some of the default stuff from the component. And now we're just gonna add the to-do list component. And later we're gonna convert all of this to standalone components. So first, for now, to make things work, we're gonna add the to-do list component here. And notice that because to-do list component, that's a standalone component, so that's basically equivalent to a module. So that's why we added under imports instead of declarations. And we're just fixing the ESLint prefix for components and directives now. So the default Tailwind CSS demo, which is kind of long. I'm just gonna change the prefix to app, which is, I think, good enough for like a clear indicator of this is something that belongs to the app. And we're just gonna serve the app and see it showing this basic to-do list component. And it works now. So in the next step, we will be looking into creating the to-do item, which is going to be the item. So it's going to be basically rendered inside of the to-do list component. So again, we're gonna use the Nx CLI plugin to have this nice UI for the schematics, and gonna type in to do item, and we provide nothing for the module, but we cannot keep it the same style with the inline style and inline HTML for a component with less files, basically. And yeah, basically we want this to be nested inside of a to-do list. So the way you, yeah, right now I started doing it like that, but I actually want it to be on a to-do list. So you just write it like this. So to-do list slash to-do item, and then it's going to be listed on a to-do list. And then you can just generate it like that. Click and run. And that is generated. We have this do item there, and we still have this default prefix. So probably at this point I should go and change the default prefix, which I do in the project.json file, and then it's just going to be app, basically at this point. And yeah, I think there's nothing else we need to do here. But also we want to migrate to standalone components for the app component. So it's all the way it's standalone components, and we don't need the app module anymore, basically. So we do it for this to-do item component. I could also just have specified that in the schematics when I generate that. So basically I'm typing it in here. It's not having it because it's still not imported here. So here I'm just looking up the documentation for standard components, and they basically say how you in the decorator here specify the standalone true, and then you have the imports. There's no declarations and that kind of stuff here. It's just imports you do here. And it basically said you can mix it with existing ng modules if you want. You can import whatever module. In the imports, it can be standalone components, but it can also be regular ng modules as we know it. And basically it shows the new way of bootstrapping an application with standalone components within the bootstrap application function. Just the method for getting the providers from an import. There's some advanced topics for library authors. because we don't need to get into here. So now we're gonna migrate to the new way of bootstrapping using the bootstrap application function. Gotta provide that here. Again, we have some migration to do with the prefix of the components. We're applying it in the HTML as well. And basically, all the old stuff goes away. Basically, we're gonna migrate the app component now to standalone. Getting rid of the app module, which is now not needed as the app component is standalone. Getting rid of imports. I did a typo in the selector name, so it needs to be fixed as well. Now basically the same thing, I'm adding standalone true and I'm adding the imports. Basically it's do item has a run selector now. I'm trying to restart, but yeah, no, this selector is being fixed. And now it should work. So now starting the application. And we should see it running standalone. Still not showing anything because it says browser module already has been loaded. And basically I just need to remove this now. And now it works, standalone. Now basically we have the standalone component application working. We have the to-do list component. We have the to-do item component. And we're gonna basically create a service. So we can start incorporating some logic in this, and we're going to generate it as usual with the Nx tool. So to-do list service is going to be generated like that. Unleash to-do list. And basically, it's there's some type on this that's being corrected. To-do list service, and so basically we have just this observer stream of some to-do data set up here, and we're going to use the to-do list service inside of the to-do list component, so we can get some data to show here. Through item array that this through items goes through this basically to-do list service to items, and then of course we need to show this as well in the HTML. And basically we will iterate over the to-do items using NG4. And when you do this, it's also super important that you use the trackby for interactable list like this. So when you remove something, it doesn't need to re-render the whole list every time. It can use the trackby as a performance enhancer of the list. So you only need to update that particular element of the list. And in this case, we want it to be tracked by the to-do item ID, which is a unique identifier we can use. So basically, we're going to create a trackby function here. To-do items trackby, and we're going to create the trackby function. Here we're going to add some type safety. And we basically see the first argument is the index, and the second one is the element of that is being the subject of the NG4, and index and item, and basically we take the to-do item ID and use the trackby identifier. So now we're iterating over this, and basically we want to pass down the to-do item to the to-do item component. So we initially just can display something. So that's going to be passed down here. So basically here we are creating the input for to-do item, so we can start passing in the to-do item and get the data we need for the to-do item component. We are working with strict mode here, so it will complain if you don't specify, if you just leave it as possibly undefined without specifying it explicitly in the typing using the undefined. And then we are basically showing the to-do name like that, and you see it's showing. So we're passing down the to-do item, and we're showing the name using a paragraph. And we just rename the title here, welcome to the to-do list. And we are fixing some styling around the to-do list. So we're adding some marking. And here we're adding marking button. And now we just want to style it a little bit so it's more centered, the styling. And basically here I am going to use the Tailwind apply function. So you don't need to only use Tailwind in the HTML using the classes. You can also apply it and mix it with your styling, which is what we need here. Otherwise, we would have to create an redundant wrapper element around our to-do item. So we are applying the styles we need, which in this case is going to be for centering the look here. And usually the easiest way to figure out how that could look nice is just using the element inspector and Chrome, and you just play around the styles until you do it correctly, and then you apply the styles in your real CSS. So I'm gonna use display flex. I'm gonna change the flex direction, so it's gonna go column and justify put in center, line item center. And justify item center, so just everything is centered here, which is the what we want. Now we're gonna, using the apply function, we're gonna just apply all this styling to the host element, which basically are gonna do like the flex, justify center. Just gonna have a look at documentation to see how this is done. Basically, we gotta get to item center. Now it's all nice and centered. Justify center, flex call, and item center. And basically here, just playing around with, maybe we can style the title in a slightly nicer way. So basically, we're gonna add some styling around the title here. So we're gonna add some margin, so it isn't so close to the corner. And we are styling the title. I'm changing this to a div tag, and now we wanna also add the check mark to the to-do item component. And we are going to create the checkbox item soon. For the is complete. So it's going to be an input. Of type checkbox. And basically the value is going to be set to the to-do items is complete, I would say. And there's some error here because for some reason there's an extra square bracket that has to be removed. That got removed, and now you see it still not so pretty. Actually looks pretty ugly at this point. So we're gonna start by applying some flex box on this, and at least now it's in one line. Can I add a bit of margin to get it separated a little bit? Also, you can adjust such margins and such styling with as a grid layout. Well, basically, you can set it up with the grid. Yeah, just to demonstrate it here, it's probably a bit overkill here. It's not really ideal for this kind of scenario. If it was like some items that should be like stacked in this kind of grid, and well, like for example, 3 items per row, then like CSS grid would make more sense. But this is fairly simple. This is something that I would just do with Flexbox. And you can even do the gap to grid spacing instead of margin. And then just to make sure it's nicely aligned, we could look into some minimum width. That's an option here. Yeah, basically we want to align the elements so the checkboxes are at the end. So yeah, if we set a minimum width, that's kind of fixing this now. And basically if we just set the width, minimum width at 200 pixels here. So we're gonna set up the form now for adding and later editing the to-do item. So we're gonna have a form, and then inside of this we're gonna have an input. And it's gonna be name as in the to-do name. We're gonna use reactive forms module, which is my recommended way of handling forms in a more, as the name implies, reactive way. So you can actually specify the form logic in the TypeScript rather than in the HTML. So it makes it more testable. One way to create such reactive form is using the form builder, where you can add the control basically and setting up a form like a group, and then you can specify, for example, that it's going to have a form control called name with some default value, and then the validators, which in this case is just going to be the validators dot required. So now we want to show the form group somewhere. So initially I was thinking we had to like pre-populate the form with some values, but we don't actually need now. So later I will remove the observable wrapping of the form, but yeah, that's gonna be removed really soon. And now since Angular 14 forms are type safe, so which is another benefit of reactive forms. So when you specify a form group, it's gonna be type safe. Yeah, we don't need to do anything for the type safety, it's just inferred from the use of form group. So now it's basically, so we're gonna remove the observable wrapping because it's not necessary here, and it's just gonna turn it into this form group right here. And yeah, we're gonna remove, it's gonna be like that, and no longer gonna be an observable, so the observable wrapping also going away. That goes away, and complaints about some typing stuff. Which you basically can just get the typing like that. That's the easiest way. Now the typing is not linked. So it's a form group of this type. And yeah, we need to install Angular material. If you use Nx, you cannot just do ng-add. You need to do it the traditional way with the Angular material. That basically just install it using npm install. So we install Angular material and Angular CDK, and then Angular /animations as well, which we already had. That's why we got a conflict here. Now we're just gonna check that everything is installed correctly. Looks right. And now we're gonna create a shared module. Because with all these standalone components, then we need to have some easy way to access all the shared components, such as the Angular material components. So we're gonna also create an Angular material module, which is gonna import the different parts of Angular material we actually use in our app. So this is basically what we want to start out with, some material input like this, and basically gonna take some of these modules and use them in the material module. So one of them is input. And then we're gonna import material module into our shared module. Now we're inserting this input, the form. Yeah, actually this should be in the to-do list component, not the to-do item component. Material module, the common module goes there. Material module, common module goes there. And yeah, we're just gonna move this. So command module goes there, and all this stuff basically goes to to-do list component, and we want to use it within our form. Now I'm just pasting it underneath. The shared module is being imported. It's held for some of these pods, but there's still a bunch that are missing. So that's just adding more of them here. Also, they need to be exported. And yeah, this is just some stuff from the material on the Angular materials. We just want like a basic input element here. Now the styling looks quite strange at this point. And then we can go and compare like what do they do, and you'll see they have this Angular material theme set up, which we are gonna need here. So we could, as a starting point, just copy this. And they, in the stack blitz example, they load it separately, using the Angular the JSON styles array. Now we're gonna take we're gonna create a themes file, theme.scss, and then you're gonna copy this in just so we have something. And basically we just need to make sure that's loaded. And now we see that we have applied the Angular material theming. We still have not set up our custom theme colors, but we just use default ones in the example. And we want to add some separation between the to-do list and the form. So we're gonna add some again button. And then yeah, I need to re-add the Tailwind. So I was troubleshooting the styling for the input. So yeah, now we have some separation between the to-do list and the form. And Now we can customize our theming. So we're using our own theme colors, and we're gonna create some custom color palettes for our Angular material theme colors. And here we also, of course, gonna have a button for saving the form. So we had the mat button. Let's give us this directive we can use, and then let's save, and then we have this button here. So there's these different button variations. So we can find a variation that kind of is appropriate. So we can do, for example, color primary, just set the color. Then we have this blue color. No. But basically we want to use these colors from Tailwind CSS, which is our custom color palette. And if by searching for this, I figured out that the site you can use for generating these color palettes for Angular material. So this is our primary color. Now we got this color palette, and we can just copy it from here. The full configuration for Angular JS2. It's basically the one we use here. And then we just put it in there. We just need to fix some syntax here, because we remove this, and then it's happy with that. And we do the same process for the other two theme colors, the theme accent and the theme bond. So the second one, so our accent color is going to be the lavender. And we're just going to apply that color here, and we can copy just as before. And that's going to be our accent, theme accent. And basically, to make this work, we have to use the define palette. So you have a palette, and then you use the define palette function to actually apply it as the theme color. So we have the palette, and then we use theme primary, and then set the theme color like that. And now we see it being applied. Now it changed to the orange primary color. So let's create a folder called theme, where we can put in this theme file, as well as we could create a file for the palettes. And it's insert the palette here, the different ones. So we just we trim down our theme file so it's a little bit smaller. We just reference the color palettes from here. define palette. And then all of this is going to be more compact, so we don't need to write the full color palettes in the theme file. This is the orange palette, that is our primary palette, and then lavender is our accent. And then because it's in another file, we will reference it and try to run it, and it gives us an error because we're using the use keyword, which needs to be on the top of the file. And I'm basically resolving the theme from here, from the styles file. You could also just load it from the styles array using the project.json configuration. And now it's basically said that use rules must be written before any other rules. So that means we just move the import down, and then it should be all good. All right. And then there's just the worn theme color, which we're gonna base on the red color from our color schema. So we get the color palette, we insert it in the palettes file. And that's of type submit. So we use the submit method on the form, and that unsubmit method, or we could call it unsubmit form to be more specific, or maybe unsave to do is the most precise name for the use case. We're gonna get rid of the form builder. We're not using that anyways. Now we're gonna start adding some of these use case methods to the to-do list service, which is this facade that is handling the use case logic and the state. I like to use this facade pattern even when I'm using state management frameworks like NGIX. It just gives a nice abstraction that makes you more flexible to changing stuff. And it like decouples your UI layer from third-party frameworks or libraries that you might not want to be hard coupled throughout the whole application. Or it's going to be next to impossible to change it later. So we're going to create like a state using behavior subjects. And that's going to have a property called to-do item. In a real setup, it will also have some meta properties, probably like is loading, error, states, and such. And that's going to follow the to-do list state, which we're going to create an interface for. And then that's basically it's a property with an array of to-do item. We gotta fetch to-do items. That's basically the observable and that. To items. The item is gonna be fetched here. Yeah, and in the real setup, it'll be an HTTP request calling the service and then getting the to-do list. And then we're gonna update the state. You can use the spread operator to take the existing state and add the updated state. That's gonna include the new to-do item. So save to-do is gonna handle both updating existing to-dos based on if an ID already exists, or it's gonna create a new. No, it seems like that's something that's not getting saved correct, and this is something with the form is like name contains the whole to-do item. So yeah, name should just contain name. It's like extra level of wrapping, and basically it's be valued dot name. Like this. And now we can create to-do items. And we had a problem with some icons not showing. We want to create the delete to-do item functionality. So we insert this, and we want to insert this icon button. And you're going to use font icon, and then we see the trash bin representing a delete button. And yeah, instead of just mat icon, we're gonna wrap it in a button so it has the correct hover effect. And we're just gonna align all this. And we can add some Tailwind styling for centering all this and makes it more nice and aligned. And we can add some color here, like theme color, so now it's red. And it's gonna be button, mat button, icon button. Also add some padding around it. And there's still some alignment that is not completely right. So we're just gonna fix styling. And we're just gonna basically, as I normally do, I just play around with div tools until the styling looks correctly, and then I'll just apply the styling to the CSS once I got it working in div tools. And we're gonna add the method for onDelete. So we actually click and then on delete. And we're gonna add the method in the component. So we will need an output with an event emitter, and we're just gonna emit the ID. That's all the information we need to make the deletion. So new event emitter of string for the ID, and yeah, it's because there's some strict typing, so I'm doing the optional chaining of the to-do item. And I'm just correcting some. Yeah, because now we're about to delete, we'll need to have some IDs when we create a new to-do item. And basically here we're gonna make it simple, and we're just gonna take the ID based on the index position, the count of the to-do item, and then yeah, now it's getting the ID as well. And the to-do list is gonna handle the delete on an onDelete. I'm gonna make it more specific here because we are like outside of the to-do component context. So I'm gonna write onDelete to-do, and then it's gonna take the to-do item ID and pass that to a new method in to-do list service called delete to-do, which is gonna take the to-do item ID Then we're updating the state as usual using the spread operator, and we are filtering away the item to delete. So they are updating that in an immutable way, which is important when you have any kind of like store updates. And if you want to follow a reactive architecture, you should do it this way. So no mutations of the state. You always make sure to create a new instance whenever you do any kind of update to the state. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard to track updates, and you cannot use unpush change detection, for example, which is another optimization, by the way, we could do to this app. For example, to-do items could be and should be unpush change detection. And now we're going to add the edit functionality, and that basically going to be the accent color we're using here. And as we did with delete, we're gonna emit this. And here we're gonna take the full to-do item and emit that. Because we need all the data for the update here. And that's gonna be passed up to the to-do list. We're gonna add the onEdit method. And we're gonna create a use case method on the to-do list service for handling this. But we don't really need that. We just use the save to-do method, which handle the update of existing to-dos as well. And we're gonna need some way of knowing which to-do is selected. So we're gonna create this selected to-do, which is basically gonna be set where we do onEdit. And then we need to update the form. So this value is represented. There's some typing that was off here, basically. I'm just gonna set the value to the selected to-do. Is the selected to do equals, after we've done the update and save, we want to just reset the form. We need to implement the logic for when we're editing. And also we will reset the form here after the save. And as well as making sure the submit button is disabled if the form is invalid. So we're gonna say disabled equals form group invalid. So now it's invalid if we cannot. It's not a valid form. But it is if we haven't set the required name. And here basically we need to update to item, and we're gonna do that by mapping over all the to-do items and then find the one that has to be updated, and then basically for that particular one we're gonna add that to the new array by returning this. That should return the, I'm gonna just, so it doesn't cause a name clash, I'm gonna add it, give it a more specific name to do item to save. So we're gonna return to do item to save is the one we should save, the new one. Otherwise, we return the other ones. Yeah, that's, so basically the equal statement is off here. Basically these two things are the same, so I should use the to do items to save on one of these to do items in the comparison in the if statement. So yeah, now it's correct. So now we should see the to do item be updated. And we can see the diff for this part with the edit functionality. So we add the disabled and we set the select to do item. We added the logic in the service, extended the save to do logic, and we have the to do item. And we save the commit. All right, we got the basic functionality of the app working, but let's be honest, it doesn't look so nice right now. So let's do some style improvements that can make it look a little more nice. So let's start with the title in the app component. And here we could, for example, probably remove the underline. That doesn't really serve anything here. And we can add maybe some text centering and text orange. We can have this just being to-dos. It's just a little more compact, like that. All right. And then we can substitute some of these elements. This checkbox could be substituted with an Angular material component, as well as we could use the Angular material card for these two items here. So let's go ahead and do that. We can go to the material module and we can add mat card module and checkbox module. And then we can just use them here. So mat card module and then mat checkbox module. And now we can use them in the to-do item component. So we go to the to-do item component and we can make some adjustments. So we can replace this template is gonna become this. So we have added the mat card and we added this extra div with some things for styling. We have the flex box, we have the justify between, we have the vertical centering, and we have some spacing between the to-do item name and then these elements here. And then we have the mat checkbox, which has the color primary. We're as well gonna, so since we're using the div inside of here for styling, we're just gonna have block for display block here. You can see how this looks. So now we have a little more nice look here with the cards and the checkbox from Angular material. Next, we go to the to-do list component. And we probably should add some more spacing between the to-do list and the form underneath. And for the, let's see, so we can do another thing for the to-do list. The cards are pretty close to each other, so we can just add some marking button in this, so it will have a little more spacing. And then we can that's it for the look here. And then we have some global styles where we basically here are gonna set some new background color, display block, and then set some marking on the side so we kind of change the background. So it looks more nice like this now. Functionality wise, there's just one thing missing now, which is the is complete functionality. We wanted just to have some strike through visualization that this item has been completed when you click in. So we will go to the to-do item component first. And basically we want to do a strike through whenever the to-do item is completed. So on the to-do item component, we will use class, and then we can bind to this line through CSS class that's going to be shown if this is true, is complete. And then basically we want to have a form control that's going to be for is complete form control. So we're going to add that for the checkbox here. So that's going to be, and also we use reactive forms module, and then here we have form control. It's going to be is complete form control, and then we will create the form control here. This will be with the new form control type boolean, and then default value is going to be false. And we will have constructor when we will access this form control value changes, and then we will also set up a destroy mechanism because we are doing a subscription thing. And the destroy is basically handled with implements on destroy, and then that's going to be added here. This that, and then destroy is going to be a subject. So destroy new subject of type void. Then here we're going to destroy. We're going to do delete dot next, and we're going to do delete complete. And next needs to be of type. There needs to be a void subject from XTS. And it's actually, so this dot destroy should be in here, and then it's all good. And then we use destroy here. So this will basically be take until, and then unsubscribe when destroy has been emitted, which it will do on the destroy hook here. And subscribe value changes, and then we will have is completed. Then we just check if it's not equal null, and then we will emit that through the, so we will create an output called is completed change, which is an event emitter that basically emits a to-do item. Because we need we also need the to-do ID in this case. So it will next, and then it will take this to-do item, and it will take the is completed. It's basically the same here, and to-do item. So this will now emit here, and then we need to add it here. So we can just prefix it on is completed change, and then that will take the updated to-do item. And then the Here we're just going to use save to do, and then that will save this one. And that's all we need to do here. Let's see how this works. So here we got the completed to-do amp. We can complete to-do items, we can delete to-do items, we can create to-do item, and we can rename to-do items. If you like this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this. And if you want to accelerate your Angular career in the fastest way possible, head over to christianludemann.com/Angular Architect Accelerator and get started with the free workshop. See you next time.